Well, hello there to all the good people of Ohio and beyond. This is Aaron Knapp, and you're tuned into Unplugged, broadcasting without permission. This is a place where the truth gets louder and we dig deeper, and where we always remember be lawful, not awful. If you want the full stories, the documents, the videos, and everything they don't want you to see, head on over to AaronKnappUnplugged.com, my new home for every investigation, every episode, and every update. And while you're here, be sure to like the video, follow the page, and hit subscribe. And share this with someone who needs the truth. We're building something real here. We're building something fearless. And we're doing it together. Welcome to Unplugged. Let's kick this thing off. Hey there, how's it going today, guys? Good to see you. Good to see you. I'm glad you guys are checking in here. It's Aaron Knapp. That's right. We're here with Live Unplugged with Aaron Knapp. Well, this is not going to be live for you, but it's live for me. So we're going to get on our business today. I'm going to be doing a multi-piece segment that pretty much walks you through how everyone's done the things that they've done all along in this process. That's led to the lawsuit and all these different things. But tonight we're going to talk specifically about one individual. We're going to talk about Ray Carrion. That's right. We're going to talk about Ray Carrion, folks. So sit back, get your popcorn out, and get ready for the expose on Ray Carrion. Now, he used to sit on my porch. He told me he believed in transparency, and he told me he'd fight for what was right. He was a councilman. He represented the 6th Ward. He said he wasn't seeking re-election because he was having health problems, right? But months later, he accepted the most powerful unelected position in the city next to the mayor. Well, I mean, actually, no, I'm sorry. The mayor's elected, so safety service director. That job, it connects the mayor's office, the police chief, the law director, and council. It's the job with real power, behind the curtain, off camera, behind the scenes. And Retaliation, that's where it began. And that's exactly where Ray Carrion was, behind the curtain, helping coordinate it, helping them sanitize it, helping them bury it. He may clean up and look good in a suit, folks, but he's a lot better at what he did in his early career, which was, digging ditches and working for the city and cleaning out everything that the city had going on. So, and this isn't a story of inaction. It's a story of a calculated suppression, folks. So, of a man who smiled in public and silenced in private. The records they tried to bury, and this is episode 1. The records they tried to bury with Ray Carrion, the fixer in the hall, right? So he went from councilman to shield. Let's start there, right? Ray Carrion was a Lorain City Council member. He was representing the 6th Ward. And in 2021, I guess it was, he announced he wouldn't seek re-election. Was it 21? Well, he cited health reasons. He said that he needed to step away from public life. I do know that within months he reappeared, not as a private citizen, not as a volunteer role, but as he was appointed by Mayor Jack Bradley to become the safety service director of the city of Lorain. Now, let's be clear. That job means what that job means here in Lorain is it oversees all of public safety. That includes direct oversight of the police chief. At the time, it was James McCann. That includes, he oversees all of public service operations, infrastructure, budgets, emergency responses. And most importantly, it gives him access to every critical email thread, every internal decision, every strategy meeting related to and how the city responds to their complaints, right? And basically, it also gives him the power to control the entire building. Now, it made Ray the bridge between all power of centers, right? All the power centers. And in my case, it made him the enforcer of silence. He didn't just sit in rooms where decisions were made. He carried them out, folks. And that was the most heinous aspect of them all. Um, so in early 24, I had submitted a detailed complaint to the city, and it was named Chief James McCann. Or it named Chief James McCann. It documented how he had taken sealed juvenile court records about, kids and other records about me and used them in a public email to send to different individuals. He also addressed, basically he put all this documentation online. He took the court records that he had received through a subpoena legally, but was not allowed to share, and he put them all on Facebook. And I started complaining about it, and then he basically used those complaints to send emails to my boss and my work. So again, the city's highest ranking police official was putting court documents that should have been sealed online. Okay, that's not wrong, just wrong. It's potentially criminal, folks. And I started, reporting it. I asked around the court, and under Ohio's rules of, Rule 37, sealed records are not public. Under the ORC 2151.357, it's illegal to disclose any sealed juvenile records. And under city and state ethics rules, it's misconduct to weaponize those records. So I had been reporting this for a while with McCann, that he had put this stuff online, that he had shut his Facebook down illegally, and he'd come after me. He'd gone after my job. He'd gone to the juvenile justice people. He had done all of these things against me personally to try and take my job, my license. Just tried to ruin my life. So when Ray Carrion was appointed, Stanford had already looked into this and was starting to look into it at least, and nothing had been done. So when Ray Carrion, the safety service director, how did he handles it? Well, he didn't investigate. He didn't interview the people involved. He didn't bring in outside review, right? He didn't apply policy, law, or ethical codes. Well, really what he did was, in the grand scheme of things, I'm gonna kind of go off script here a little bit. Ray was obligated to investigate because I kept forcing the issue, forcing the issue, forcing the issue. So they worked their way through all these different individuals, and they couldn't do it. And we'll discuss that later on why they couldn't do it. Soto couldn't do it because he was a reserve police officer. No one could do the investigation, so it fell to Lori Kukowski to interview me. And in the grand scheme of things, what I decided was, after the first interview, she wasn't really qualified to interview me and didn't really know what she was doing. And most of their questions seemed like they weren't geared towards the actual finding of truth. And so I just said, you guys should go off of what I wrote. I had wrote an entire report that I put out that described the entire events, why they happened the way they did. I gave them to Lori. I gave them to everybody in the city. And I did meet for one of their video sessions. So, but when Ray finally did it, he gave me the investigation. I got the whole investigation, but he basically issued like a memo to me on it, or an email. And he said the matter was closed, and his justification was this letter that he had gotten from the prosecutor's office. And the prosecutor's office letter was from Judge Burge, who said I'd had some issue a year later with them. And it was in regards to the same situation. I was going down there to the courthouse to actually get some results on McCann. And they tried to kick me out of the courthouse because I wanted to sit and wait for someone to come up. But I was also there for another reason. That's a whole nother story. But this letter basically said they were conflicted with me based on that. And so Carrion basically said, hey, we're going to use this letter to excuse McCann. So here's what Carrion didn't say, though: that the office had already recused itself from the case, that they had declared themselves at conflict of interest, and that they had no legal standing to clear McCann. So the prosecutor's office had actually recommended that the law director take care of it. So Carrion used this letter from an agency that had recused themselves and pretended it was some sort of exoneration, right? It really wasn't an investigation. It was a cover story. True and blue. Like, I get this report. It's really just a timeline of everything that happened and an investigation into me. And legally, that's pretty dangerous ground, folks. Like that puts them in some actionable position, because under ORC .44b, dereliction of duty includes recklessly failing to perform a duty expressly imposed by law. Now, under the ORC 2921.32, it is illegal to knowingly hinder an investigation of misconduct by public officials. Okay. So you start putting those together. By refusing to investigate, misrepresenting the source of authority, and closing a valid civil rights complaint based on a letter from a recused office, Ray Carrion crossed lines, plain and simple. And those lines are now before a federal court. So, Carrion's conduct wasn't limited to just that one complaint, though. It was a pattern. I had warned Carrion in 2023 August that Chief McCann was continuing to harass me. I told him directly in writing that McCann was contacting me repeatedly in ways that were retaliatory. And the part that they won't say publicly was the city didn't open that investigation into Middlebrooks out of integrity, right? They did it because I released a full internal affairs report. I published a story exposing everything. Once that truth was out, once the public saw that the city tried to hide, they had no choice. They were forced to investigate McCann, and they were forced to act. So back then, like when that all came out, what did Carrion do? Nothing. Not a single documented response, no cease contact directive, no administrative intervention. I know he did say that he was going to make it stop, but I still got more emails from McCann. But when Lieutenant Corey Middlebrooks, a fellow officer, made a similar complaints against McCann in early 2025, he was making complaints about, a retaliatory acts on McCann, by McCann and racial discrimination. Now the city had to act, so they acted. Carrion received the ops report, this big old long thing. They left a lot of it out. And what did they do? He still signed off on Middlebrooks' termination. Carrion fired him. So yeah, the whistleblower was once again punished. Carrion didn't investigate the original complaint. He endorsed the report that found Middlebrooks unfounded, and he executed the discipline that fired him. Same pattern, folks. When I, a citizen, complained, I was ignored. As always, because I'm always ignored by every agency that I try to speak with. They would kill him to just say, "We received your message." So when Middlebrooks, an actual decorated officer, almost gave his life in the line of duty, complained, he got fired. And Carrion's in the middle. He's one of the key players in both of these timelines. So let's be clear. If a safety service director is handed two nearly identical complaints, and in both cases sides with the power structure against the complainant, that's not a coincidence. Okay. That's loyalty to the machine, folks. Plain and simple. Ray knew where his bread was buttered at. And that machine protects police power. It protects political control. It does not protect rights. It doesn't protect your rights, my rights, Middlebrooks' rights. And yes, I get it. He was a police officer, okay? We're going to address that. And a lot of people said, well, he was this, he was that. Doesn't matter. His complaints were legitimate. They did treat him certain ways. And they used these other things to use it against him. This is what they always do. They use outside things to try and influence the situation and say, oh, well, because of this. But no, that you did that hindsight. You did that later, just like they did with the building changes and the codes. When I tried to enter in, they wrote a policy like a day or two later. And just like they're doing here, just like they're doing here, they're covering it up. They're backstopping, and they're saying, oh, well, Middlebrooks was horrible. Oh, well, Aaron did this at the county a year later. So, of course, the thing that he did a year before is definitely covered by that. Makes zero sense. But, that's their business, I guess. Whatever. I didn't really have a whole lot more dealings with Mr. Carrion after that for quite some time because he doesn't answer his emails. When I go through my emails and I see all these emails from from other people, and I see a lot of emails to Ray, but I don't see but about 4 or 5 from Ray. He does, however, comment quite often. Every once in a while, he'll pop into one of the pages and comment on something that that I am commenting on, or that that another person's commenting on, like my campaign manager, Jocelyn, and he'll say things about like addressing her in what I believed and felt was a snarky way. But hey, that's just my opinion, or as one person would say, in my humble opinion. But let's go back to the October 2025 meeting at the Lorain City Council. So Ray's seated with council. I'm seated in the audience. I'm sitting right next to Garen. Ray's sitting, like, I can see him. Council's discussing a security policy, and or they were discussing some money they had sent out, right? And earlier in the session, I'd been talking about a policy that changed access to City Hall. That was during my public comments that Ray wrote, and I was kind of chastising him for that. On top of which, I had just filed a recent civil lawsuit against Ray at that point. So he was a little teed off with me, I think. So I made a comment to Garen next to me from my seat. Now, I wasn't being rude. I wasn't being disruptive. I just said, then why are we? Because he was saying, well, we don't usually waive fees. And he was saying we were waiving like $13,000 in fees. And so I looked at Garen and I was just like, well, why are we? Now, this is my voice pretty much all the time. And otherwise, I have to talk like this. And most people don't like this voice. But anyway, like at that point, when I made that comment to Garen, like Ray, I'd have to go back and look at the video, because I don't know if and when he kind of stood up and leaned over and grabbed the edge of his desk, or if he was just sitting there doing this. But he turned his body towards me no matter what he pointed, and he was like, and he says it, and you can hear it, and what I'm going to do real quick is, yeah, you can hear it. So really quick, I want you to just hear what happened.
Down to all of our departments, and assure that as part of our regular checklist that we have for many projects, that we can visit this. This is not a common area because we typically don't waive fees. So it's one of those areas that we'll revisit here as we move along.
Thank you, Mr. Carrion.
Say something? Then why are we? Say something?
Then why are we?
Mr.
You want to get an
Knapp.
attitude? You work for me, Carrion. Yeah, get it. Do it.
Mr. Knapp, let's have it.
No, your employee is addressing me, sir. No.
Excuse me, President Arredondo.
You better calm down, boy.
President Arredondo.
Madam Sprigowski.
At this point, I would move to a point of order and ask that you recess the meeting until this gets all straightened out, because this is disruptive to our agenda.
That was the audio file that is distorted on the city's tape. Like, I don't think you really hear the Ray part. You don't hear city council, coalescing him. But here's the gist, folks. Like, the problem is, and you've got Ray Carrion in the gallery. He holds the floor. He's addressing me, sitting next to Garen. And I've told them time and time, if you address me, I'm going to respond. But, under Robert's rules, under the city's rules, and under the law, like, you can't address the audience. Like, there's several case law findings that state that you can't address an audience member unless the audience member has been recognized by the floor, and you must go through the chair to do so. There's just quite a few things that must happen in order for that to happen. So from the start, I had zero expectation I would be addressed by Ray Carrion in that moment. Now, the audio file belies what actually happened. Like, he grabbed the edge of that desk and he's just, I'm like, I felt myself panicking in the moment. I don't know why, because again, that's just what my PTSD does. And the way he was looking at me was kind of aggressive, and it did make me fearful, like he was going to come get it. And yeah, I get it. I elevate and I raise my voice and I say, get it, whatever. This is me reacting to his physical presence, the way he looks like he wants to come after me. And when you look at the video, you kind of see he ends up eventually have to turn around. He's got his back turned, and they're like, rubbing his back, and he's really, really mad. So my justification would be, yeah, his words were there somewhat, but his actions were definitively there. At no time did I get up. At no time was I, standing up and pointing at him. At no time did I leave my seat until I finally was able to get up after he left. And it should be noted that he had to have Mayor Bradley walk on the other side of him to get him out. He also couldn't ever address us again or tell us that, we had to leave, which was his responsibility as safety service director. So it was unexpected, unrequired, and not allowed under the law or under Robert's rules. Yet nobody wants to address that. Under the Lorain city rules, they were supposed to do 2 warnings and then clear the chamber. They did no warning. They just recessed the meeting based on what Ray was doing, not what I was doing, and then tried to make it seem like it was me. They left the audio initially in there. They left the video initially. I mean, the notes. They put it in the notes initially, and then they started changing the notes. This is all to satisfy the fact that Ray lost it. You can say what you want right then and there, but Ray lost his cool. He started elevating. So I started out by saying again, hey, why are we? And then, he says, did you say something? I'm all, well, then why are we? Looking at him. Did you say something? Well, then why are we? Like, that's that I elevate as he elevates. And the second he stopped and Mary and all them came over to rub his back and he got up and turned around and everyone was like, Ray, Ray, Ray. You can really hear Carrion. I mean, not Carrion. Demakia has a really caring voice. If you listen to everybody's voice in those things, Demakia's voice is sounded the most fatherly, I guess. I guess it's normal. I mean, he does work with kids, but so you're dealing with everyone's calming Ray down. I get it. So if you didn't have to calm me down, but I was planted in place and Ray was the issue, then why did you shut the meeting down? He had handed the cue over back to Arredondo already when Mary was doing that. So they just did it, out of an abundance of caution? I mean, I'm not saying they can't. I'm just saying it just weird timing, right? But, you heard it yourself there. 3 times, a senior city official directly confronting a private citizen during a public meeting. On the record, on tape. And then they buried it. Initially, I don't even recall hearing it on the city the city website, but you kind of hear it now. But I did. I made a comment from my seat, unrude, undisruptive. And if you look at other incidences with a lot of other people, so many people have said so many worse things, from Tia to Jane to Paula to Garen to everybody. Everybody's probably said something worse. I get a little anxiety when I'm in public places. And so I wouldn't even have spoke if I wasn't sitting next to somebody, but I feel dead air. So I was speaking to Garen, and Carrion got upset and just started coming at me. I wasn't looking at or talking to Carrion. But I do know that I felt like he kind of either stood or leaned. He turned his body towards me. He was pointing. He's like, did you say something? I think he was sitting down when he said, did you say something? It was kind of like in between. Did you say something? He says, 3 times on mic, on camera, on the record, elevating each time. That was an official of the city of Lorain confronting a private citizen. Say that again. That was an official of the city of Lorain confronting a private citizen. That was your safety service director, Ray Carrion. Ronaldo. That's a violation of parliamentary order, professional conduct, and basic civic norms. I imagine it also violates the Lorain City Handbook for employees. So what did they do after the city? And they, initially they were going to put in minutes that had the conversations we had, me and Garen and I had with AJ and the mayor, and we were like, no, you can't put that in there because that happened after you gavelled the minute down. The meeting that's not part of the minutes now. And they were trying to include that. So we sent them back to the drawing board. They fixed that. Then they came back this time and they put my name in there when they're not allowed to, and they removed Carrion's. So they don't have one line in there about Carrion saying, then why did we? Or I'm sorry, did you say something? He says that 3 times to answer me. In the final published version they haven't published it completely yet, but the city gave it to me. They're just waiting on Joel's signature because he was sick. The council's signed off on it, law department, everyone. So basically, they're all okay with them putting this thing in the back about me. The final published version, it's all gone. Every last bit of it. None. I mean, it looks like I'm talking to a ghost, like I'm talking to air. There's just nobody there. Scrubbed, sanitized, edited. My comment was definitely left in, but all his provocations and comments, they were deleted. That's not clerical. That's corruption. I have done another video or whatever on it. I posted the video of Brianna telling me no and me telling her what she was doing was illegal, and she still stuck by it. That's the way we heard it. You just heard it. Is that the way you heard it? Under ORC 121.22c, the city is required to maintain accurate records of public meetings. Accurate. Under the Public Records Ethics Law, altering official records to protect a sitting official is fraud against the public trust. So what did Ray Carrion do in full, right? Like, well, I just feel like hold on. Well, I feel like we are coming up on our 30-minute mark, and I want to do I'd like to do a quick break. But I would like to just point out so far, folks, and I appreciate you guys coming and tuning in, because there's going to be more to this. This is why you need to be participating in your government, actively working, running for government. These people control so much of your lives. And, later after this, I'll probably post his personnel file and Ray Carrion and a few others that I have. I want you, the public, to be educated about these people and how they're treating you and how they're using these institutions to weaponize, the attack of the U.S. citizen, how they're turning these things into problems all across the board. So, we're going to go ahead and play a quick word from our sponsors, folks. So please, in the meantime, stay tuned, and I shall be right. Here at Unplugged with Aaron Knapp, we like to thank our sponsors. We have a few unofficial sponsors tonight, and they are definitely not paid sponsorships. I want to throw out there a big thank you to Joseph Jones and Eric Jones of the Lorain Daily and the Vermilion Daily. They have a local news page. You should check them out. They do plenty of great work, broadcasting all the news that is the news that you want to have in Lorain and Lorain County. So check them out. Also, please, if you need any legal services, feel free to reach out to Robert Gargas. You can find him listed online. He's a fine attorney and comes highly recommended by yours truly. And last but not least, I want to mention DNC Radio. Please make sure you check out one of the up-and-coming internet hip-hop stations and all of their shows. They put on a lot of shows. You have the Never Outdone show. You also have the Eric Bowen show, Speak Up, Speak Out. So please make sure you guys check them out as well if you're looking for your latest and up-to-date hip-hop artistry. Thank you for tuning in. This has been a non-paid sponsorship brought to you by Unplugged with Aaron Knapp. Welcome back there. Thank you guys for tuning in and checking out our sponsors there. Again, if you need a good attorney, check out Robert Gargas. Also, don't forget to check the Lorain Daily, the Vermilion Daily, and all of their entities. And also check out DNC Radio. I know they're going to be on an up-and-coming episode of Hometown Heroes, I think, with Russ Van Warmer on I forget the name of it. The name of that WBOL, I think it is. It's GT's local radio station. They do country, hip-hop, and... Well, no, they do country. They do... talk, and they do I think they're on the AM FM dial. They do a lot of local Lorain stuff. They're not my biggest fans, but I love Russ and I love what he's doing over there, and he's gonna have Eric on there. So if they have my support, I support them no matter where they're at. But yeah, so go over there and check them out. They're probably doing some great work. In the meantime, we're going to get back to, where we were at. And so, and it wasn't clerical, it was corruption, folks. Under, 121.22C, the city is required to maintain accurate records of these public meetings. And under public ethics law, they're literally required to, or if you alter public official records to protect the city and official, it's fraud against public trust. So that's where we left off. The segment 5 is going to be what Ray Carrion did in full. So we're going to list it out point by point. Ray Carrion received a formal complaint about a police chief disclosing sealed juvenile records. Now, he failed to investigate. He cited a letter from a disqualified agency because the prosecutor's office had already disqualified themselves. And we're going to get more into that later, too, on how they'd been disqualified back then. If they were just, disqualified and conflicted then, they're conflicted now. So he closed the complaint on a false legal ground. He ignored the continued pattern of the retaliation. He refused to act. He reviewed an ops report against another whistleblower, and he signed the termination. He confronted a private citizen in a public forum, and he intimidated on the record while he was being sued federally. He allowed official records to be altered, and he let lies stand as truth. He didn't correct them. He could easily stand up and say, I said something too, but he doesn't want to be a man and do that. And now he's set in meetings where the city voted to protect retaliation with taxpayer funds and said nothing. Now, yeah, I mean, that's key in all of this. Like, he and Mayor Bradley are the only two members of the control board. So they both voted to cover $10,000 in fees, 5 and 5, one for McCann to get Rosenbaum, who honestly should recuse himself, not be his attorney, because I've covered extensively his other clients, Barila's motions, and covered him extensively. I feel like he really shouldn't be representing them at all. And then they hired some guy, Pratt's or whatever, out of Cleveland. I have no issue with him because I don't know who he is. And he doesn't know who I am. But I'm quite certain that Rosenbaum knows exactly who I am. And I'm certain he's read my articles and is well aware of who I am. So I don't need Ironsides with McCann. Like, I'm just not doing it. I see the pattern. I see he's got ties to Amber's case. He's got ties to the Ohio. He's got way too many ties to this city and this county. This man shouldn't be anywhere near any cases in Lorain County. I mean, I'd like to know why you guys didn't investigate the fact that is. I mean, what's going on with the whole thing? Like, my understanding is that so his son shot him on a gun range, paralyzed him, and then shot his own self and lobotomized himself, and no criminal charges were filed. I think I need to get a 911 tape of somebody, because I just feel like that kind of behavior and whatnot shouldn't be tolerated. And why you guys allow these things to happen, it goes right along with the idea of why you allowed, a judge and an auto accident between a now current, soon to be sitting council member kind of go unnoticed. I got the autopsy report on that judge case. I need to go look at that. I haven't yet. I mean, again, folks, I've got lots of things that I'm working on, lots of things. So the bottom line is that this guy shouldn't be involved in my case at all. He shouldn't be McCann's lawyer. But I do find it quite funny that this guy, along with all these other guys and all these names that keep popping up and everything, seem to be all over the place and all over every document, every county. It's gross. And you guys should be questioning this. From Bradley to Giardini to Rosenbaum to Silo to Yost to, I don't know, folks. Like, it's scary when I can go back at the 2023, or it wasn't 2023, but it was like the 153rd was one of the congressional settings where, they're talking about all of the different, roles that some of these individuals have played in, doing good deeds and good works. And so this is how it happens, folks. They do these things. They have these companies like SW Holdings that they don't want to give me information on. They do these deals with these different people, and they're the attorneys. They're doing what they do. Now, I'm not saying, once again, I'm not saying anyone's done anything illegal. I'm not sitting here. I don't have any proof of any malfeasance. I'm just saying all these people should be looked at. And I'm also saying that why don't people look at them? Why is it you guys will go after someone like me with a fine-tooth comb? Or you'll go after someone like Amber's mom with a fine-tooth comb? You'll make stuff up about us to make stuff stick, right? But when it comes to investigating yourselves, that's not okay, right? You can't do that. And that's why McCann was so mad. He had the social work board investigate me. And, lo and behold, social workers found me to be innocent because I followed our ethical code. Just like when you have cops investigate cops, they always find themselves at no fault. But just know this, guys, Carrion was not an advisor. He wasn't neutral. He was the fixer. And he always has been. They brought him in after he claimed he had, needed to leave from council and not run again because he had health reasons, right? He had heart problems and all this stuff. And then, a few months later, he's taking this new job. They gave him more power than he'd ever had. And he used it. He used to be somebody different. He used to be the sixth ward savior. He used to be a guy you could trust and respect. He was the guy that you could trust to sit on your porch and tell you, you know what, I'll make you a meeting between you, the mayor, the police chief. I'll do all of it. I'll do everything I said I would. I'll make it happen for you because I'm your council person. Never got that meeting. The emails show, I think it was 2 years ago. Still haven't got that meeting. Not that I expected now, Ray, but I still haven't got that meeting from you ever. And I just don't get it. What I don't get is why you would feel like you could just do this and pretend no one would notice. He lived in the 6th ward, folks. Now he doesn't. I think he lives in like the 8th ward. He has a nice house now. He has a nice high-paying job now. Rumor has it they want him to be the next mayor. Can't have him tangled up in all this stuff, right? But he's got this power now and he uses it. He will use it every chance he gets. And he has been using it silently, wielding it. Not to serve, not to protect the public, but to protect his political family, right? He wants to protect the Bradleys. He wants to protect the city. He wants to protect everybody that he's directed to protect by the people that protect. So, we're rolling into our next segment here, and then that's where we're getting into the legal stakes, right? So Carrion's named as a defendant in the Knapp versus the city of Lorain et al. And in that, it's a lawsuit I filed pro se. And he's accused of violating my First Amendment rights. And he's accused of suppressing complaints in violation of 42 U.S. Code 1983. That's color of law violations. That brings it into the personal level status of lawsuits. Instead of being one against the city per se, it's against him. So it's him personally, not him as safety director, but him as Ray Carrion. Because what he did, suppressing complaints in violation of 42 U.S. Code 1983, which I pre-warned him he was doing. That's the problem. I sent all of them emails saying, if you don't do this, you're going to be in violation of this. And they still did it. So, yeah, suppressing complaints in violation of 42 U.S. Code 1983 is a federal offense. Participating in a conspiracy to obstruct protected expression, that's also bad, Ray. Using the power of your office to support unlawful retaliation. I don't know, guys. Like, you tell me. His actions have violated so many laws. But mainly, again, I believe, in my humble opinion, He's violated ORC 149.43b, records access laws. Ohio Revised Code 121.22, the public meeting transparency laws. He violated ORC 2921.44, which is dereliction of duty. And he's still violating that. City ethics policies requiring neutrality and fairness in complaint resolution. He's violated those. And you have a city handbook that is filled with documents that he would have violated, and just the fact he hasn't gotten back to me, doesn't respond to me, the way he responds to me, and the things he said and done. But in my lawsuit, it outlines it all in the pages, in the dates. It's documented, time-stamped actions, right? So you're going to see his involvement. You're going to see the way that mainly his involvement was the blocking. Like he shielded. He did an inappropriate investigation. I mean, mind you, the investigation he did was into Aaron. It said literally the Knapp investigation. How could an investigation into the chief of police and his consistent emails of me and whether or not he was violating the law or doing something wrong, how could that be titled the Knapp investigation? And again, he ended it as soon as he got that letter from Judge Burge. I mean, truth be told, that was what really started I don't have aggravation with JD himself because I've never actually spoken to the man. He never actually had the huevos to actually come up and talk to me, to ever call me, to ever deal with anything. Rich did once. But again, you guys let Burge write this letter. I get it. You guys are all covering for each other. Funny how now, like, there's an opportunity for all of us to be friendly again, as there always is, because I do believe that they are totally screwing JD on this whole thing. You guys had your shot to get him with the Battistelli stuff, and you screwed up. Your little plant didn't do her job, you know. And Jennifer Santiago. Oh, I mean Battistelli. I forget which one it was. Was it Santiago or is it Battistelli? Jennifer Santiago, you know, Jenny from the block, South Side Jenny that lived over on the south side of Lorain, who didn't go to Vermilion, right? I hear she went to South Lorain High, South Side over here where my daughter went to middle school. Like, who's that girl? What'd she do? I digress. All I know is that in my lawsuit, it outlines it all in the pages and the dates and the documents and the timestamps and the actions. I show how Ray and all these other people have coordinated, cooperated, and done blocking against my emails. And that's why, and that's why I love that Angel Arroyo recently admitted in a or in an open, dialogue while he was openly harassing me at a public polling site, which was illegal. He basically admits to having knowledge about the complaint against McCann, against the complaint and the lawsuit. He talks about all the emails I've filed. So he openly admits that they've received all my emails. So if they've received all my emails, they can't claim they haven't. That means they've all been linked in. If you've received my emails, you've been linked in because I've told you in those emails that once you got this email, you too were obligated under your ethical code as somebody that was authorized to be an administrator of the law, of justice, sworn city council, sworn police chief, sworn mayor, appointed safety director, appointed any position that holds any sort of ethical requirements. You guys were obligated to report these things and these 1983 violations, and you didn't. And that's why I kept telling you, I hope you guys are okay with this. I mean, McCann literally said, "I'm 1,000% okay going in front." I think I don't know if he said 1,000%. He said, "I'm definitely not afraid to go in front of a federal judge and argue my case on why I said and did the things that I did." Okay, well now you're going to get your chance, James. Now you're going to get your chance. So the episode at the county building, and the incident, the Soto recusal, and this manufactured narrative came about. There's one more little piece to this part of the story, and it matters because the city keeps trying to twist it, right? Oh, so, and they're good at twisting, guys. Like there was a way, it's like, "Come on, baby, let's twist and shout. Bradley and his officers are gonna twist and shout. They'll take you by your little hand and they'll screw you over just like this. The incident at the Lorain County Prosecutor's Office. So they had the one that they keep pointing to, right? The one that they pretend proves I was the problem. Well, the way that happened, it happened almost a year later after everything at the city of Lorain had already happened. It was months after the retaliation, months after what had happened, months after they let me go, months after, I had dealt with Swanger and dealt with them touching me at the city of Lorain incident. I had the videos. All of this was well documented online when I went to the county prosecutor's office that day. I went up to the county, and this was what that whole video fight was for a year. I thought they had cameras on every floor of the city or county building. They don't. Like most of the floors, like all of the county prosecutor's floor, apparently there's no cameras, which is crazy to me that they would have no cameras on those floors. Like that's a serious breach of security, in my opinion. But I always thought there were, and so even if I was, as they're saying, being obtuse about things, I don't think they use that word. That's my word. Um, if I known there was cameras, which I thought there were, I would have done it the right way. Just no, that's. But I wouldn't do it the wrong way anyway because I know what happens. And so what happens was I go upstairs. I'm on the second floor because Judge Sherry Glass and the other judges had this open house for her new self help center that they were opening up on the family court and juvenile court floor. It was a great thing. I wanted to come celebrate, so I came down, had a little punch, hung out, did whatever. And then while I was there, I was like, well, I'm going to go upstairs and I'm going to check with with JD's office to find out exactly where this complaint against McCann's at. And I get up there and, they're like, oh, well, no one's here because they were all down eating like the leftover food from the event I had just come from. So I said to the lady, I'll just sit and wait. Right. Well, that turned into their investigators coming out and trying to tell me to leave. Now, we've seen in subsequent events from all of these people, and I apologize. I've tried to tell people this. I've tried to say, look, I'm working on it, but I don't like being confronted. And I don't know why you guys can't just come at somebody nice. But, they surrounded me, and there's two of them standing in front of me. They got, bigger guys, one heavy dude with the bald head. I think the other one might have been Longacre, or whatever his name is. And they're out there trying to tell me I have to leave the office. Well, I couldn't identify who they were. They just looked like two scrubs, just like me. And then one of them pointed to some little tin badge he had on his belt. And I was like, I don't know what that is. I don't recognize that badge. He's like, well, we're investigators for the county prosecutor. Oh. All right. That's key piece of information because, mind you, just maybe a week before, I think it was about 3 months before that, there had been a ruling that stated that they, per the sheriff, because they were tiffing with the sheriff, weren't allowed to have their deputy powers outside of like Sheffield Lake or Sheffield Village, and that was only in a mass of serving warrants. Now, it used to be that the sheriff allotted them deputy powers so they could be police deputies, but I knew that they were not. So once they told me they were not, I said, well, you don't really have any authority over me. I'm going to need you to get a bailiff or a judge because one of those two people are the only people that have authority in this building. Otherwise, I'm here. It's a public building. I don't know why I can't just sit. But they wanted to make a big deal out of it. They want me to get up and leave. And I, again, we've seen once you confront me, I can't. I'm just going to sit there. And so I'm sitting there, and they get me a deputy. I said, all right, cool. Thinking the deputy is going to de-escalate. He rolls in hot. He comes in the door. He's already been advised by everybody. So he knife hands it. He's like, we're not going to take any of your shit. I'm like, thank you, Jesus. Like, this guy is like a wet dream for an auditor. An auditor would have picked him apart. Unfortunately, I am not an auditor, or at least I wasn't at that time. I didn't have body camera. I didn't have a camera, which is why I ended up buying a body camera. And I absolutely recommend to everybody that you get a CamPro video camera. That's right. Camco is the only video camera, the one that they make that is a body camera for law enforcement. You need to go to get yourself a Camco body cam. They're durable. They're excellent. They have long recording life. They do the trick. So get yourself a Camco body cam because after that, I did get one. Now, after the false, now after they started, after this guy comes in and does his little knife hand trick, I say, okay, well, I'll go with you. I said, under threat of arrest. And he said, yes. So, okay. So I left and I'm walking down the hall with this guy, this I later found out he's an old guy. He's from East Cleveland. He was retired from East Cleveland PD. Just he became a court deputy. I saw his sign in or swear in by Stamidi. He was an older guy and he was a hothead. And so we're walking down the hall and he's just hostile. Now, mind you, in this moment, I believe A, his body camera was on because I asked him and he said it was. And B, that these halls were recorded like the court was. Both were false. So I found out later that his body camera wasn't on and he got reprimanded for that. And that there are no cameras on that floor where the district attorney's office was at, which I just find appalling. They're so worried about building security, they don't want me to have the front footage that shows nothing, but they don't have cameras on the DA's floor. Ridiculous. So I think that they're coming out videoing me, and I'm walking down the hall with this officer, this bailiff, and he is upset. And I'm telling him as we're walking, like, "But dude, you cursed at me." And he's like, "No, I didn't. No, I didn't. No, I didn't." The whole way down, I was like, "You cursed at me. You said we're not putting up with any of your SHIT." And at that point, I was spelling it. Like, I don't curse inside the courtroom. I don't yell inside the courtroom anywhere within its halls. I do have a lot of modicum of respect for that place that I worked. Those courtrooms are sacred. They're hallowed. They're where our justice department and justice, takes place. And I just don't go around acting a fool in the courthouse. So I walk with this guy. I use some coping techniques that we would say that I have plenty of little signs for you. Like, you use your coping skills, right? So we'd be like, so one of the things I told him to do was this. Was we're walking down, I said this. So I said to him, "Sir, you seem upset." He was elderly. I'm like, "I need you to find 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste." And we do that. These are coping skills. They're cognitive distortions that we sometimes encounter them when we use coping skills to defeat them. So he was really upset in the moment because he had been led to believe by the fact that people do this when they call. They make their situation sound so crazy. And so they made it sound so crazy that he comes running up there to deal with it. And so finally, by the time he takes me down the elevator, we had to take a different elevator because he was getting upset. He ended up taking me all the way to the basement where they have like the jail holdings. And I didn't know. I thought we were going to. I'd get off, and he goes, "Yeah, I just wanted to show you where they take the criminals." Ha 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 ha. And then I get back on, go up to the first floor, and that was the end of that. But they just didn't want me sitting in the prosecutor's office, and this guy was a total a-hole. He was later reprimanded for not having his body cam on, and there was no video footage of anything else, so nothing else happened. But in the end, Burge finds this, way of framing it, and makes it seem like I've done something wrong, unfortunately. And so after months of retaliation, after the sealed records breach, after the false ops findings, after the intimidation in the council chambers, and after the minutes were altered, after every single failed attempt to get help, I'm the problem. And they're using this letter that says I caused a problem in their office that day a year later, and they point out that happened. And so then I guess this thing that happened at City Hall and everything that happened with McCann, his harassing calls, his releasing of information, his calling my board, his doing all these different things, that they all denied these emails exist that he did, and they ended up existing any step of the way. I told Ray, all you have to do is pull McCann's emails. In the end, when Fallon pulled McCann's emails, you know what they found? All of the evidence. So that's where his dereliction of duty comes in. He had an obligation to investigate. He could have pulled all the emails. He chose not to. I went to the prosecutor's office for one reason: to get charges pressed against McCann, to get anyone in the government to take my complaint seriously, to listen to the fact that the Lorain police chief was totally giving it to me in the rear. The prosecutor pushed it off to the city law director. So the city law director pushed it off to the mayor. The mayor pushed it off to Soto, who was Mayor Bradley's chief of staff, and he happens to be a reserve officer who had to recuse himself, and he pushed it off on Carrion, and Carrion looped in Lori Kukowski, and there you have it. Lori Kukowski starts to do it, around and round, an intentional maze. Where it stops, nobody knows. So when the county incident had happened already, it wasn't the beginning of the story. It was the result of a year of stonewalling, gaslighting, and bureaucratic hot potato, right? But the city uses it backwards. They pretend something that happened in 24 somehow justifies their misconduct in 23. They pretend the reaction proves the cause. That's not oversight. That's deflection. That's not accountability. That's narrative building. So, they want you to look back at the last chapter and then forget the first 10. But the timeline's the truth, folks. The timeline shows this. I only went to the county because every door in the city had been slammed shut in my face intentionally. And all of the same people that were slamming those doors shut were connected to one name, Ray Carrion. So when you look at the way that, that Soto extension, let's just talk about Mr. Soto, right, for a minute. His role is one of the clearest signs that City Hall knew that there were conflicts of interest inside this whole mess, right? Soto wasn't just any staffer. He is Mayor Jack Bradley's chief of staff. He's the gatekeeper, the filter, the internal coordinator for what the mayor sees, hears, and does. But, Soto, I think Rick Soto is his name, I believe, also holds a second title, a title no one really talks about. He's a reserve police officer. He used to be an officer on the force with Lorain police. But because of that, he has to recuse himself from anything related to police misconduct complaints, police-involved retaliation allegations, internal affair issues, or anything that could require him to act against the interest of the department in which he was affiliated with. Now, that recusal is important, and I'll explain why. But first, I do want to say thank you to Mr. Soto, because in that grand scheme, he's the only one out of all these people that recognized his duty to recuse. And for that, I would say, I salute you, sir, because you did understand what you needed to do, and you recused yourself because you knew you couldn't aptly do this investigation knowing your ties to McCann and the department. Bravo, sir. Bravo. I give you nothing but, kudos for that. So, but that's not, when a government employee recuses themselves, though, it means one thing. There is a recognized conflict of interest. Not one that's imagined, not one that's speculative, a legally recognized conflict. So when Soto recused himself, it meant the city understood that my complaints were police related, they were sensitive, they were credible enough to trigger a conflict, and serious enough that participation could violate ethical rules. That's what Soto's recusal did. But even though he recused himself, he was still in the communication chain. He was still being copied. He was still being included. He was still seeing the internal conversations. He was still watching the city pass my complaints around like a hot potato. His recusal didn't remove him. It protected him. And because if things ever blew up like they are now, Soto could point to that recusal and say, well, I wasn't part of the decision making. My hands are clean. But his fingerprints are on the timeline. He was present. He was informed. He is aware. The recusal doesn't shield him shield the public from him, and it shielded him from accountability. The recusal proves something else. The city knew the complaint against McCann was real. They knew it was serious. They knew it created conflicts, and they knew it required a firewall. But rather than handling it according to law, right, they passed it from Soto to Carrion. Carrion goes to Kowalski. Then it's back to Bradley, back to law, back to ops, until finally it went nowhere. Which brings us to right now, to county building. Because when I showed up there, I showed up after, well, not right now, but when I showed up at the county building, I showed up after the city exhausted every internal method of avoidance. The fact that even Soto and the mayor's own chief of staff had to remove himself from the issue should tell you everything about how deeply compromised the city's handling of this already was. So, in this final segment here, the mask is going to fall. Ray Carrion once stood on my porch and told me he would help me. He told me he believed in fairness. He told me he knew what was happening was, wrong, and he was going to, set me up with a meeting with the mayor and with the chief of police. But when it came time to act on that promise, he chose silence. When it came time to do the right thing, he chose power. He chose the people who gave him the title over the people who put him in the position to get the title. He forgot about the public and the people that once supported him in the 6th Ward and beyond. He forgot about his constituents like me, whose porches he sat on and represented them in this matter as their advocate, and then turned right around, unethically, I might add, and became the prosecutor in this matter when he chose to take up the investigation against me, already holding inside knowledge that I gave him as my advocate to use that against me and wield opposite power against me when he was supposed to be my representative. That's ethical violation number one in itself, right off the bat. You look at that, that's wrong. So when it came time to act, he chose silence. He chose power. He chose the people who gave him that title. And this episode here, right now, isn't just about Ray Carrion. It's about what happens when systems protect each other, when people who know better do worse. Ray Carrion called himself a public servant, but he acted like a private guard. And now every one of those decisions is coming to light. The record's clear, folks. Like, the emails are real and the law will speak. My name is Aaron Knapp. This is The Records They Tried to Bury, and this was episode 1, Ray Carrion. Coming up on our next episode, we're going to talk about Jack Bradley, the mayor who gave Ray the shield. Stay tuned, stay aware, stay defiant, be lawful, not awful. Thank you for tuning in. This has been Unplugged with Aaron Knapp, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Down to all of our departments and assure that as part of our regular checklist that we have for many projects, that we can visit this. This is not a common area because we typically don't waive fees. So it's one of those areas that we'll revisit here as we move along.
Thank you, Mr. Carrion.
Anything? Say something?
Then why are we?
Say something?
Then why are we? You want to
Mr.
get an attitude? You work for me, Carrion. Yeah, get it. Do it.
Mr. Knapp, let's have it.
No, your employee is addressing me, sir. No.
Excuse me, President Arredondo.
You better calm down, bro.
President Arredondo.
Madam Spurgowski.
At this point, I would move to a point of order and ask that you recess the meeting until this gets all straightened out, because this is disruptive to our agenda.